This is the best value Mac ever made. Let's talk about it. So, this is the M1 MacBook Air, and in my opinion, it's the best value MacBook ever made. And it might be one of the best value laptops ever made, because this is everything you need for most people. This has a very powerful CPU and GPU, this has incredible battery life, incredible build quality, I/O that is more than enough, 2 USB-C ports, and obviously one headphone jack, and it has Touch ID, an incredible Retina display, an LCD one, a very good Magic Keyboard, an amazing trackpad, one of the best in the business, and yeah, it's very thin and light. And it only costs you currently around $750. So, in my opinion, this Mac is the best value Mac ever made. And it's easy to understand why. So, if you want to find out more about this Mac, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, let's review it in 2023. Shall we? So, the M1 MacBook Air came out in 2020 with the M1 chip. The M1 chip was the first Apple Silicon chip to come out. And the MacBook Air was one of the first, not the first computers to receive it. At the same time, we got the M1 MacBook Pro and the M1 Mac Mini. But I do believe that the M1 MacBook Air is the best value of them all. Yes, of that generation, the M1 MacBook Air represents the best value because, in my opinion, a very thin and light computer like this one is the perfect candidate to receive the M1 chip. The M1 chip was focused in power and efficiency, not just in performance, which actually is the ethos of Apple Silicon. Because if you understand Apple Silicon, you understand that Apple is focused on power efficiency and not on performance. And the M1 MacBook Air truly represents that. The battery life here, which is around 8 to 16 hours depending on what you do. If you do high intensive stuff, it will be more around the 8-hour mark, and less intensive stuff, it will be around 16 to 18 hours, which at that time was revolutionary. In today's day and age, it's closer of the M2 and M3 generation, but the M1 is still a very powerful computer. The M1 chip still performs really well. I did 2 benchmarks, which, let's be honest, if you are buying an M1 MacBook Air, you don't really care about it. But if you want to know, these are the results for Geekbench 6, pretty impressive, and these are the results for Cinebench 2024. Which are also pretty impressive. It scored around 400 points on multi-core and around 109 points on single core, which is more on the same likes of the M1 family, the M1 Max, the M1 Pro, and has the multi-core performance. I would say it's not incredible, but it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. This has an 8-core CPU, 4 efficiency cores, and 4 performance cores, so I do believe it's a very balanced computer. The M1 chip was incredible. The design enclosure of this computer is the older generation design. It has an aluminum construction, which feels super premium, super easy to hold. This is the same design or around the same design as the 2016 generation MacBook Pros, but it features the Magic Keyboard, so it doesn't feature the faulty butterfly keyboard. Then, obviously, it still has the same size trackpad as the 2016 generation, has the same overall design, but it features a wedge design, so in my opinion, is more comfortable and obviously thinner than that generation. Then, of course, there's that display. That display is a 13-inch Retina LCD display. The bezels are a bit bigger than the current generation of the M2 chip, but they are still bearable. And this is a Retina display, so you won't be able to notice the pixels at the normal viewing distance. So, I do believe that most features on this laptop are really premium. The USB-C ports, it has 2 USB-C ports. It has an headphone jack. It's made of aluminum. The screen is an LCD Retina display, one of the best in the business. The keyboard, super comfortable to type on, the newer generation Magic Keyboard. Not as good as the MacBook Pro, but still on par. And the trackpad is huge for a 13-inch laptop and is super responsive. It's an haptic trackpad, so it doesn't click. It's an haptic motor, but at the end of the day, super high quality. Everything on this machine doesn't feel like this computer is cheaper than the $1,000, which is just crazy. And yeah, the differences between this M1 and the M2 generation are more on the design and the hardware side than on the chip. The M2 chip is not more powerful than the M1. Maybe a tiny bit, like 10 to 15%, but I don't think it matters. And this computer is cheaper, and the base model, the 256GB model, is not throttled in terms of performance of the SSDs. This computer has 2 SSDs of 128. So by having 2 NANDs, it actually performs better than having one only 256 NAND, like the M2 MacBook Air. So the speeds of the SSDs here are better than the current M2 and the next M3 MacBook Air, which is pretty cool. On top of that, you also receive the older and, in my opinion, better design than, of course, the MacBook Pro. Yeah, the new M2 MacBook Air has an incredible design, super comfortable to hold, less sharp. But the M1 MacBook Air is no slouch. This design is super comfortable still, is a bit sharper, but this wedge design that made MacBook Air incredibly thin, like, look at it. This is insanely thin. This is my finger. This is the computer. My finger is thicker than the end of the computer. Obviously here it's like thicker because the computer, it's a wedged. But still, it's incredible. The display, it's an LCD display. It's a 13-inch LCD display. This display is not that great, but it's not bad. It's Retina display. I mean, take a look at it. I don't think it's that bad. And 13 inches, it's small, compact, super light, one of the lightest Macs ever made. Only bigger and actually heavier than the 12-inch MacBook. So, with the price of this $750 computer, I do believe it's unbeatable. You can buy whatever computer you find out there. A Windows laptop, a Linux laptop, a Chromebook, an Apple MacBook. This is the best value of them all. The performance, the design, the trackpad, the Magic Keyboard, which is a replacement of the Butterfly keyboard, much better, one of the best keyboards in the business. The trackpad is big, it's comfortable to use, it's really easy. And yeah, the USB-C ports, you could have more. 2 are kind of limited, but for most people it's okay. This is a computer for average consumers. This is a computer for you to web browse, for you to do documenting, PowerPointing, anything involving work and university. No 3D rendering, no video editing, although you can do some slight video editing with 4K image on Final Cut Pro, totally fine. You can do some type of GPU work, totally fine. The GPU here is a bit weaker, it's not as fast and more powerful than the other generations. The M2 kind of improved, but the real improvement came with the M3 generation. The M1, it's fine, I guess. Remember that this is the same CPU that was found on the M1 iMac, M1 Mac Mini, and M1 MacBook Pro. If you want to know if you can run your YouTube channel of an M1 MacBook Air, most people that film on 4K cameras, they can. Unless you are filming ProRes footage or H.265, you will be just fine. This doesn't have any type of accelerators on the CPU for H.264 or H.265, so more compressed codecs will take more power, so it will be a lot slower. But for most people doing light video editing on CapCut or Final Cut Pro, for shorts, for Instagram, for TikTok, or maybe editing photos on Lightroom, this computer will be totally fine. And the value proposition here is insane. So grab an M1 MacBook Air in 2023, going into 2024. This is my advice. If you can find this MacBook Air refurbished, cheaper than its full price of $999, then it's totally worth it. Apple is still selling the M2 MacBook Air at $999, and that's a really good price. But I do believe the M1 MacBook Air, if you can find it, it's an amazing buy. In the M1 generation, I do believe that the M1 MacBook Air and the M1 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch currently are the best value computers of that generation. The M1 Max 16-inch because right now is really cheap and is still a very high performance computer, and the 16-inch form factor makes it a very good value. While the M1 MacBook Air on the other end of the spectrum is the cheapest Apple Silicon MacBook you can buy and one of the cheapest laptops for a higher-end computer. Currently, this is one of the cheapest MacBooks ever sold, which is just crazy to say because it's such high quality. I understand that it's now 3 years old, but I do believe it's still kicking and living. It's insane how good these things can grow. And although this design was not made for Apple Silicon, it does not thermally throttle, which is kind of impressive for an Apple Silicon computer with the M1 chip. Super powerful, but still super well managed. You cannot feel the heat, you cannot feel the fans. This doesn't have any type of fans, so you cannot hear them. It's a fanless computer that still works and performs really well, with the biggest advantages truly being the performance and efficiency stacked together. So everything on this computer is powerful, but still really efficient. And the speakers here are also really good. They are not MacBook Pro level, but they are better than most laptop Windows speakers. So take a listen and let me know in the comments down below what you think.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I
I want to say that this computer might not be the best choice in about 1 year, because I think that in 1 year, the M2 MacBook Air will be the lowest priced option in terms of refurbished, in terms of used market, and at that time, maybe it will be justifiable to buy the M2 MacBook Air because the newer design, the bezel-less treatment, the notch, everything on that computer just feels newer, and the M2 chip might not be the fastest or even faster than this M1, but I do believe a newer generation with MagSafe actually gives you one freer port of USB-C, so yeah, kind of solves some issues of the M1 MacBook Air. But if you want to buy a cheap computer right now for your university, for light video editing, for work, then there's no better laptop than this one. This is super light, super compact, and super, super powerful for what it is. So yeah, the M1 MacBook Air is the best value laptop in 2023. But let me know your opinions in the comments down below. While you're there, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.